We are from Group 6. Today we are going to present about ABC costing versus traditional costing. Firstly, we're going to present about introduction of traditional costing and ABC costing. Secondly, the comparison between traditional and ABC costing. Thirdly, advantage and disadvantage of traditional costing. Fourthly, advantage and disadvantage of ABC costing. Lastly, the traditional costing cost pools and ABC costing cost pool. My name is Dharishni Letchumanar and my metric number is 273198. Today I am going to present about the history of traditional costing system and absorption costing system. Traditional costing is the allocation of factory overhead to products based on the volume of production resources consumed. In this system, the cost of direct material and direct payment are directly allocated to the production. Productive and non-productive overheads have also been considered a direct cost and allocated to production using the pre-assigned overhead rate. In a traditional costing system based on the volume of cost price, each product consists of the sum of direct material cost, direct labor, and the allocated construction overhead. The most popular use basis for allocating overhead in determining the type of costing in direct labor hours. To calculate the overhead rate, the sum of the budgeted construction overhead is divided by the direct labor hours or any other basis such as machine labor hours. The trouble with traditional costing is that factory overhead may be much higher than the basis of allocation. A slight change in the volume of resources consumed triggers a massive shift in overhead applied. This is a widespread issue in highly automated production environments where factory overhead is quite large and direct labor is close to non-existent. Also in this system, the cost of overhead between production are standard. Therefore, according to their production costs, some products have a more significant share in allocating the overhead. For example, if the construction overhead is allocated according to the direct labor hours, the products to which have been allocated more direct labor hours will attract more overhead costs. Absorption costing, sometimes called full costing, is a managerial accounting method for capturing all costs associated with manufacturing a particular product. The direct and indirect costs such as direct materials, direct labor, rent and insurance are accounted for by using this method. Absorption costing is required by generally accepted accounting principles for external reporting. Activity-based costing begins with the company's products, determines the activities used in the production and delivery of those products, and computes the cost of various activities. The cost of the activities used in the production of a product are then assigned to that product in a manner that approximates a causal relationship. As a result, advocates insist that ABC system provides more helpful information for cost management than traditional system do. These differences are significant for companies with large overhead, multiple products, and high product diversity. Many companies develop ABC systems outside the financial accounting system designed to meet the needs of management decision making. As a result, costs included in ABC system vary by company and application. Some ABC systems limit their cost analysis to the direct material, labor, and manufacturing costs found in traditional systems. Others include research and development, marketing, and distribution costs. Some systems separate overhead into the amount approximate given current production level and the amount incurred because of excess capacity. ABC has also been expanded from determining product profitability to accessing the profitability of individual customers and marketing efforts. Not all companies have been satisfied with the result of the ABC adoption. However, the system have been criticized for being owned by the accounting department, for using canned software, and for not being strongly linked to quality and delivery strategies or performance evaluation and reward systems. Manufacturing Vice President have reported that ABC implementation had the second lowest pay of 26 different innovations.
Good afternoon to Doctor and my fellow friends. My name is Khow Kai Ling and my matrix number is 280546. Today, I would like to explain about the comparison between traditional costing and activity-based costing. First, I would like to explain about the definition of traditional costing and activity-based costing. Traditional costing means the allocation of factory overhead to products based on the volume of production resources consumed, while the activity-based costing is a costing system which focuses on activities performed to produce products. ABC costing is the costing in which costs are first traced to activities and then to products. So next, I will explain about the difference between these two costing. The first difference is about the cost pools. Traditional costing accumulates costs into facility-wise or departmental cost pools. The costs in each cost pool are heterogeneous. They are costs of many major processes and generally are not caused by a single factor. While activity-based costing, it accumulates costs into activity cost pools. These are designed to correspond to major activities or business processes. By design, the costs in each cost pool are largely caused by a single factor. That is the cost driver. The second difference is the allocation basis. The traditional costing will allocate costs to products using volume-based allocation basis. That is the units, direct labor input, machine hours, and revenue. While activity-based costing will allocate costs to products, services, and other cost objects from the activity cost pools using allocation basis corresponding to the cost drivers of activity cost. The third difference is about the primary focus. Traditional costing will use multiple cost drivers for multiple activities, while activity-based costing, it will use identical cost driver for different activities. The primary focus of traditional costing is the apportionment of overhead costs to the activities of production. Irrespective of the specific allocation of resources, traditional costing sets a single metric for every activity that involves in the production and allocates costs based on the consumption of that metric. Although activity-based costing is also used for cost allocation, but it adopts a different approach. Under activity-based costing, appropriate cost drivers are determined for every different activity, and cost is then allocated according to these cost drivers. The fourth difference is about the management use. For traditional costing, the values can be used in external financial statements, while activity-based costing, management use is about the values cannot be used in reports of external reporting. The figures extracted by traditional costing can be included into cost figure of statement of profit or loss. Because it only inculcates product costs, but activity-based costing can only be used for management purposes. The main reason being activity-based costing is based on management purposes. The main reason being activity-based costing is based on the subjectivity of the user, and two users may not find a cost metric suitable for the same activity. However, activity-based costing can be actively used by the management of a company to make a better cost pools and allocate costs more accurately. The fifth difference is about the effectiveness of operations. Traditional costing will enhance management knowledge about the activities related to production process, while for the activity-based costing, it does not provide any opportunity to identify any specific reasons for costs incurred. Activity-based costing improves business processes in long term. This is because management of a company needs to investigate deeply into production activities and related costs. This highlights the reasons for certain costs being incurred, which can ultimately help control and manage these costs. Traditional costing does not compel management to look for different cost centers, and so it becomes difficult for management to gather incremental data about production activities. Lastly, the difference is about the scope. For traditional costing, The scope only covers the product cost, while the activity-based costing, the scope can cover both product as well as the period cost. Traditional costing can only be used for the absorption of manufacturing overheads, but activity-based costing can effectively be used to allocate manufacturing as well as non-manufacturing overheads like selling and administration. This is because activity-based costing considers the actual center of cost for the period cost and then allocates it. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. My name is Nurul Noorhazmira binti Mat Radzi, metric number 281257, and I will present about the advantages and disadvantages of traditional costing. There are two advantages of traditional costing. The first one is inexpensive to use. This costing system is focused more on production costs, whereas for marketing and sales costs and other costs, no shares are allocated to production. Traditional costing system consider the obtained advantage of changing the process and improving the method as saving money in labor force. Also, there are no fancy calculation or forms required to determine the average overhead rate under the traditional costing system. All they must do is calculate the amount of time it takes to produce a specific product or provide a unique service. Then they take the average rate of labor or machine use cost per hour, multiplying it by the length of time necessary to create saleable goods and services. This advantage is taken from journal changing in costing models from traditional to performance-focused activity-based costing (PFABC) by Fatihah Kowsari. The next advantage is simplicity. Uh, the traditional costing system are often associated with a financial accounting focus and include direct materials, direct labor and manufacturing overhead in their determination of product cost. For simplicity, they will assume here that overhead is allocated to individual products using a plan-wide overhead rate. Although different companies may compute various departmental overhead rates, there is often no causal relationship between the way in which overhead is allocated and the actual production process. Rather, overhead is allocated based on the number of units produced or the number of labor or machine hours used in production. For this advantage, it taken from journal Do Different Cost System Make a Differences by Susan B. Hughes and Cathy A. Paulsen. Next is disadvantage of traditional costing. There are three disadvantages. The first one is using common basis and unit for allocating costs. The system usually use a division basis to allocate different costs. One of these bases is direct human force labor hours. And to consider the fact with the complexity and quick technology changes, the engaging rate of human force in labor force has decreased a lot. Therefore, by using this basis, the division cost is not really done. The next disadvantage is the lack of preparation exact information about cost price and other necessary information for decision making. Traditional system mainly divide the existing costs in organization into two groups, which is direct cost and periodic cost, and they only consider the direct cost in calculating the cost price. But in making decision, they need to use both of them, which is direct and periodic cost. Therefore, based on traditional methods, analysis of the improvement of activities and methods for decreasing the cost won't be possible. These two disadvantage is taken from journal changing in costing models from traditional to performance-focused activity-based costing PFABC by Fatihah Kowsari. And the last disadvantage is it leads to making improper decision. The problems of traditional cost management are unable to identify the actual production cost of a product and of its services cost. Therefore, the management usually were using the inaccurate data to do decision making. When there are multiple products, the situation becomes more worse. The fact that costing traditional system not only cannot meet managers' need, but also using of the information derived from this system in some cases causes misleading and leads to making improper decision. This disadvantage is taken from journal Comparative Study, Activity-Based Costing, and Time-Driven Activity-Based Costing in Electronic Industry by N.F. Zamrud and M.Y. Abu.
Assalamualaikum. Hi, my name is Nur Nadhirah Farhah binti Ramli, metric number 269881. Next, I'm going to present about the advantages and disadvantages of ABC costing. The advantages of ABC costing. The first advantages, ABC costing will work best cost with a minimum amount of detail and estimated cost figure. This means that if company in Malaysia wanted to use ABC costing, they need to appoint a designer to come up with a more precise measurement tools if more accurate costs are needed. Even though ABC costing often provided better product cost than traditional costing, it still had some limitations. Activity-based costing were found to be expensive in use. In Malaysia, the increased cost of identifying multiple activities and applying large amount of cost driver deferred many organizations from using ABC costing. The second advantages of ABC costing is more accurate cost estimation method. ABC costing helped managers to become aware of original parameters that created demands on indirect and key part resources, which can identify and remove non-value adding activities. ABC costing is also illustrate that approach had demonstrated to be more accurate than the traditional cost estimation. This article conducted several tests on validity of activity-based costing, cost estimation, and then conclude that the accuracy of estimation of cost made by activity costing was valid. Next, the advantages of ABC costing. ABC costing provides insight for the analysis of customer profitability, distribution channels, brand, region, and other areas that directly affect the probability of a firm's. Because ABC costing links performance of particular activities on the organization resources consumed, also the activity-based costing system creates opportunity to the product designer to make for cost reductions. Next advantages, ABC costing generally improve the ability of an analyst to estimate the cash flow. By separating costs into activity pools and identifying a cost driver into each pool, the analyst can more accurately determine the levels of various costs that will be incurred. Next, I'm going to present about these advantages of ABC costing. The first advantages is that the ABC costing implementations provided beneficial result only under specific conditions. This article indicates that the advantages of ABC was that it increased the frequency of error in product cost measurement through increasing in number of cost pool and improvement in specification of cost basis. This article claimed that although more overhead costs can be allocated straight to products via ABC costing, but some overhead costs remain to be spent with the help of arbitrary volume-based cost driver like machine or labor hour. The second disadvantages is that ABC costing allow managers to get rid of costs related to non-value added activities and develop the efficiencies of present development, since ABC costing offer better visibility into business development and their cost driver. The advantages of ABC costing is that ABC costing adopters had abandoned their implementation, and this raised concern on the potential impact of ABC costing on performance. This article states that the traditional costing system shows that only financial information, while non-financial information like defect rates and throughput rates in each activity was beyond the capacity of traditional costing system. At first, manager viewed ABC costing approach as more accurate way of calculating product cost.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nuril Fatihah binti Badrul Hisham and my metric number is 270118. I am presenter number 5 from group 6 and I will present about cost pools of traditional costing versus ABC costing. A costing system determines the cost of an object through completing two basic steps. The first one is the cost accumulation and the second one is cost assignment. Cost accumulation means collecting cost data in an organized way through an accounting system. The accumulated costs are then assigned to the cost object through tracing, which is for direct costs, and allocation, which is for indirect costs, which are also called overheads. Traditional costing and activity-based costing, ABC, are identical in the way that they trace direct costs to a cost object, but differ in the way that they allocate indirect costs to a cost object. For traditional costing, it uses cost centers as cost pools and allocates indirect costs to a cost object through those cost centers. This figure shows the process of cost allocation under traditional costing using the product as the cost object. In the figure shown, indirect costs are first assigned to cost centers. Here, cost centers include service departments, which provide internal service to other departments, and production departments, which directly participate in the production process. The costs accumulated in service departments are then reallocated to production departments using the direct method, step-down method, or reciprocal method. By this time, the indirect costs accumulated in production departments include the department's own indirect costs and any indirect costs received from service departments. These indirect costs are then allocated to products by using the allocation rate, which is also called the absorption rate. Under ABC costing, cost centers are not used as cost pools to allocate indirect costs, but instead, activities are used as cost pools. Indirect costs are first accumulated in activity cost pools and then allocated to products using activity cost driver rates according to the product's requirements for different activities. The figure on the slides already show the process. The choice of cost pools under ABC is more reasonable because companies consume resources as a result of conducting activities instead of having cost centers. For example, consider a company that claims to have a production department but does not conduct any production activities. Under traditional costing, it does not actually incur costs. However, the company will incur costs when the production department conducts production activities such as handling materials, setting up machines, running those machines, and doing quality control. Last but not least, here I will conclude the overall presentation. In conclusion, traditional allocation assigns overhead based on a single overhead rate, while activity-based costing (ABC) assigns overhead based on several cost pools and the activities that drive costs. Traditional allocation is optimal when the manufacturing process is labor-driven and overhead increase based on traditional activity bases such as direct labor hours, direct labor price, and machine hours. Activity-based costing (ABC) is optimal when the manufacturing process is technology-driven and overhead increase based on various activities that differ for each product.